What's up guys, YST here and welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today, we are live on the test server to showcase the new champions that will be dropping in patch 7.0 to coincide with the Razelvarg fusion that will be starting this Thursday on April 13th. So what we're going to be doing is deep diving into the kits, breaking down my first impressions, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see a guide on all of these champions that we're about to talk about in today's video. Well, we'll talk about Razelvarg towards the end, as I already broke down his kit in a previous video. And let's just kick it off with the ones that I believe will be needed to fuse this champion, because we had a little teaser in the news page in the live server, where it's going to be 4 of the same epic, and then of course we're going to need the rare to fuse into those epics to make the legendary champion. I hope everyone's keeping well. It's been a little bit of a while before we jump back on the channel and stuff. I was away with the HH gaming team with Insomnia Gaming. You may have seen the video from my previous one, I believe. We did some zombie shooting and it was a really nice time to catch up with some creators in real life as well. So I had a blast. But okay, let's have a little look here. So the first champion is going to be the larger. And as you see from the portrait image, this is the one that was live in the live server. And it was 4 of her. And then we'll speak about the rare in a second. But aesthetic-wise, looks very cool. She's got those 2 crazy swords hanging out. She's ready to slash down some enemies. And I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of these spikes. I tell you that much. But alright, let's break it down. Epic HP champion from the Lizardman. A buff of the Azov. Attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit heals this champion by 2% of their max HP. And each hit also has a 20% chance, 30% chance once booked, of applying a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Now, being based off each hit is nice, but it's a little bit of a low chance for my liking. But it all starts to make sense when we talk about the passive here. But A1, 30% chance double hitter for a poison and a heal. Not a bad A1, right? Especially for a fusion epic. On the Blaze Dissolved, attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance of placing a decreased attack debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So maybe pairing this with champions like a Rearguard Sergeant or a Hatatsu, whoever that may be, that also have a cooldown decreased attack for the Demon Lord clan boss, can actually be very, very strong to pair with her, right? But just in general, like, even think about the faction wars, guys. If you're struggling on mitigating damage from the enemy waves, or in like the Doom Tower or wherever that may be, an AoE decreased attack 3-turn cooldown is actually very substantial at 100% chance, so it's nice. And being based off HP as well, she's going to be pretty tanky here. So heading into the A3, she'll place a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 1 turn, and then we'll place a shield buff equal to 20% of this champion's max HP on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Now, this could be used in places like the Scarab King, if using the shield strategies, or just mitigating damage in waves, or just some extra protection in the Demon Lord. It's actually a universal skill that I'm a big fan of. Granted, it is on a 4-turn cooldown, so those 4-to-3 ratios may be needed in specific compositions here. But as a whole, if this champion is the one that's going to be used to fuse the Razelvarg, I think it's a pretty decent one, guys. Like, it's very, very strong here. I did see it in the picture, but I'll post an edit just to show you guys what I meant. On the Instincts passive, has a 30% chance, 50% chance once booked, of counter-attacking when any Lizardmen except this champion are attacked. Now, why I think like this can be very useful is, there is limitations being faction-orientated, of course, but think about Krisk, Raz and Scarhide, which is a fusion that's available for all players out there. Venom Mages, you name it. Just pairing this champion in the Demon Lord with a Lizardman, that's a big chance to counterattack, guys. And what does the A1 do? It procs a poison debuff based on each hit, which might mean that this could be one of the most consistent poison champions, granted you pair her with a Lizardman. So a lot of potential here for damage, maybe in some unkillable teams, or even some traditional teams out there, because it's like using a counterattack without needing a counterattack buff on this champion. So yeah, I'm not entirely against this one here. It's pretty good. Aura increases ally HP and faction crits by 30%, as to be expected. Gonna be very good for the faction wars, of course. But as a whole, it's actually one of my better champions that I like from the batch that you're about to see. But yeah, pretty decent there. So okay, we're gonna have a lot of Sylvan watches now, guys. So get your Sylvan watches camouflage on, like Turlac, like this. Everyone dress up. So Margrave, a Green Hawk. I believe that this will be the rare champion that's going to be needed for the fusion, as he's the only rare from this list that we've got today. He's a HP based champion as well, and he's actually pretty good as well, guys. So Hawk Talon attacks one enemy, places a 7.5% continuous heal buff for 1 turn on the ally with the lowest HP. So a way to just heal up some of your allies in the faction wars, could definitely have some use there. On the Emotionless Rampage, attacks 3 times at random, and each hit has a 70% chance once booked of placing a Provoke debuff for 1 turn, and then will follow by a Reflect Damage feature on this champion for 2 turns, straight after using that skill there. Now, on a 3-turn cooldown, now granted it's a random skill. I'm not always a fan of random skills, especially if you want it to go on a specific target, right? But think about like the Magma Dragon, being able to provoke that boss there, or against the Hydra boss, locking down the Head of Decay and placing that provoke. I think this is a very strong rare, and even in some secret rooms could have some use as well. But once again, if you want to rely on a provoke champion for the Hydra boss, it is a random hitter, so there's that chance that that champion does not take it, right? So just something to be wary about, but not bad at all. Not bad at all. On the Living Barricade, places 2 forms of strong damage mitigation, being a 30% increased defense and a 25% ally protection on all allies for 2 turns. Downsides of this skill will be a 4-turn cooldown and being the lower variations of the buffs. It's not the 60% increased defense or the 50% ally protection. That's all cut in half, but once you start pairing them together, still a very strong form of damage mitigation for one champion here. Overall, pretty solid rare to add to the game, not a useless one, and I'm a big fan of it. 100%. Okay, so next up, we're going to start talking about the epic champions. So we've got Wiranon the Silken. By the way, guys, there will be some guides on hellhades.com. If you head into the description below, you can have a look through all of the skills and all of that good stuff in one place. Definitely worth heading over there for something to relate back to. So, looks pretty cool. Aesthetic-wise, looks like a legendary champion, right? Looks like a really good legendary champion, but how does the kit replicate here? Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to start off with the Grace of Immortals because she will revive a dead ally with 50% HP and 30% turn meter on a 4-turn cooldown alongside the 15% continuous heal buff on that ally. So she's healing them, she's filling turn meters, and she's reviving on a 4-turn. And I believe that this is the only, as of now, at the time of recording this video, the only epic champion that has a non-conditional revive from this faction, meaning she's going to be getting a lot of use from the community when it comes to faction wars once that releases. And I actually think that the faction wars might be closer than we may be anticipating, because it's been close to 6 months now since the release of the Sylvan Watchers. So them pumping in loads of champions here now leads me to believe that it could be just around the corner. But strong A3 here. A1 decreased attack has a lot of value for the Demon Lord clan boss, and then also a filling turn meter by 15% and a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. So this will have some use in like the Hydra boss, right? Some increased turn meter, some revives, some increased speed, some decreased attacks. Definitely not useless for the Hydra. Could have some use for some speed tuning on clan boss teams. Going at a 2-to-1 ratio, right? Granted, it's on a 4-turn cooldown, so you're gonna have to work out that speed tune. Decreased attack A1 as well. That's always nice on a default skill for these traditional clan boss teams. And then a revive for elsewhere and a speed aura for faction crypts only. Overall, pretty decent champion. Yeah, I think it's a good addition to the faction, right? Not bad at all. So next up here, we've got Lockwain from the Sylvan Watchers, once again, an epic attack champion. And he has the potential, I say that with a pinch of salt, to be a very strong arena nuker, guys. So let's break this down. So on the A1 with the Boon Catcher, attacks one enemy with a 50% chance of stealing a random buff. So be able to go through, maybe steal like some increased defense, a perfect veil, whatever that may be, has that chance to do so on that A1 skill. Now, one thing I want to touch upon is, before we even dive into the rest of this, nukers are always hard to build with accuracy stats to make full use of their overall utility, right? Well, this champion actually has a passive that's very, I'd say, unique in a sense with Hunt the Haughty, because it increases this champion's accuracy by 10 for each buff on each enemy. You're reading that correct there, guys? Each buff on each enemy. So hypothetically, in a go second arena scenario, let's just say they've got, I don't know, 4 buffs each, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, 16 times 10, 160 accuracy. You'll be able to go through and potentially steal those buffs a bit more easier than once before. So I think the uniqueness of this passive could have a lot of use for certain things, especially when you consider Revelation, which has a chance to remove perfect veil and veil buffs from enemies, also attacks all enemies, followed by a 100% chance to remove a random buff from enemies. So there's a double chance to remove specific buffs alongside a nuke of his own on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm a big fan of this skill. The one downside would be, I wish that they would switch that around. I wish it would be a 100% chance to remove Veil or Perfect Veil, and then a 25% chance to remove a random buff, right? And that way you can really pinpoint and target those Duchess teams, Rector Dross, whatever that may be, and really be a strong counter to those Perfect Veil compositions. So I would love to see that, but still I'm not completely against it as an epic champion from this faction. On the Focus Force, attacks one enemy 2 times, will ignore shield buffs, which is nice for really penetrating through those shields and getting straight to the enemy. And then we'll reset the cooldown of this skill if this attack kills an enemy on a 4-turn cooldown. Now, this leads me to believe that this will be one of his money scaling abilities, where he's going to completely shred a single target, and attacking 2 times has a lot of potential here for like Rotos or whatever that may be. So I'll definitely be deep diving into this and having a crack at it. But also tops this off with a speed in arena battles by 20%. So for players out there that pull him early, talk about a strong arena nuker alongside the speed aura for live arena, tag team arena, classic arena. Just a nice little universal one for your rosters there. So to conclude, I think this is a nice little addition to the faction as well, but it all comes down to the damage multipliers. He's got a base of 1.4k attack, which is not too bad, but I'll be playtesting him, seeing what we could do, and how much that A3 can really smack in the arena. Okay, so next up, we're talking about Void Legendaries. We've got Claydna, and she's like a butterfly tree, in a sense. I like the aesthetics here. She's got the claws, which, if I speak bad about her, she might be coming for me, right? But is she one that you're going to be wanting to pull on your account? Well, her skill set is kind of orientated around the new dungeon boss in the Sand Devil's Necropolis, where sleep debuffs and debuff placement is a very big feature to take that down, alongside the other parts of her kit that's very cool. But what she does is she places a A1 that has a 70% chance to place a sleep debuff for 1 turn. Now, Raid, as a Void Legendary champion, if you want this to be for the Sand Devil's Necropolis, this needs to be 100%, and to be honest, it should be a non-resistible one, right? It's a Void Legendary, like a non-resistible 100% chance sleep makes this viable for players trying to form these Sand Devil Necropolis teams without relying on others, right? So as a starter, I think that should be one that should be used. On the Lost in the Woods, has a 100% chance of placing a decreased speed and a leech debuff, which allow you to heal by 18% of the damage inflicted from allies on all enemies for 2 turns, and also heals all allies by 20% of this champion's max HP, being a HP based champion, straight after that as well. So not only is she providing a way for further healing, she's immediately healing and a decreased speed. And because it's a placement skill, this is 2 debuffs for the Sand Devils, and it can also penetrate through Poison Cloud being a placement, so you can't grant those weak hits, right? Very similar to like a Geomancer placing a burn or something like that. So yeah, pretty nice for those 2 areas, I'd say, Hydra and Sand Devils, but can also be universally used in a vast majority of plays in this game. Even like the arena, if you want to place decreased speed or a little heal or something, whatever that may be in progression, right? With the Otherworld Infusion, places a block debuffs and a revive on death on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, this is one of the things that led me to that Sand Devil's Necropolis feeling, because there's a lot of revive on death teams out there. Block debuffs is good to mitigate some of those decreased speeds and stuff. And I think the synergy is definitely there for those big nukes if it's timed correctly. Like, if she goes fast enough, you place the sleep, or you open up with the revive on death and place the sleep on the next one, and then the decreased speed, the leeches. I think there's a lot of synergy that can be used. It just seems like the kit doesn't make too much sense together, right? Like, if this was like a Riho Bone Spear one where it places like 5 buffs or something, 5 debuffs, then I'll be like, oh, maybe you can open up with the Revive on Death, tank it, go back through, place those 5 debuffs, and she plays the role of both the champions, right? Without having to bring in 2 like a Skytouch Shaman or something. But overall, she's decent. I just think that this needs work. I think it needs to be 100%. It's a Void Legendary. I'm not going to even like sugarcoat this. This needs to change. This I'm not against. I think a 3-turn cooldown form with these 2 strong debuffs, pretty nice. And then a Revive on Death, block debuffs. I'm just not sure what else I'd want to see from here, but it's decent, right? It's decent. But there's a bunch of champions that can place a block debuffs or a Revive on Death. With the Fey Monarch on a 1-turn cooldown, has a 50% chance of completely blocking incoming damage of the first hit of an attack. Now remember that, first hit, guys. Now, it's a tough one. Like, I did try it out previously, like yesterday, just to see how it's working. And I was in the arena facing a Duchess, right? With a Force Affinity champion, just so the Duchess consistently attacks that one champion. But what was happening was, the other target would never get the damage, similar to like a Sepulchre Sentinel in the Demon Door Clan boss. The damage only seemed to block it if it was on herself. And I don't know how I feel about that. I did try it multiple times. There might be some more playtesting. I could have had some bad RNG or whatever that may be. But for me, from playtesting, it just didn't seem like it was working. Like it, because I read it like you could completely block all incoming damage. So let's just say in the Hydra boss, somebody goes through and nukes you all. Or in the arena, someone tries to nuke you like a Baron. I thought it might have that 50-50 shot to just block that first attack. And it could have been a great counter to certain things. But it doesn't seem to work that way from the amount of times that I've been playing it anyway. But that's something I can try out throughout the week and stuff. And then on the passive, increases ally HP in dungeons by 40%, to be expected, to try and add to those stats for the Sand Devil's Necropolis, right? So that was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the Lizard Mon, and then the final champion in the fusion itself in Razelvarg. Now this champion, I've swayed my opinion a little bit since watching it last. I think that the way that he adds the speed to himself, being able to outspeed his opponents with ease, and placing a lot of crucial debuffs like Leech, very strong for healing. We've got increased accuracy, so your champions don't need as much accuracy. Increased speed to go at those 2-to-1 ratios. I think he's got a good kit, guys. And I think that, depending on how hard this fusion is, I think he's one that's worth going for, in my personal opinion. The passive is very quirky. And we never know the speeds that future bosses may held, right? So being able to boost up by 100... I'm just thinking about potential new clan bosses, right? Because we are expecting the Great Void maybe end of this year or next year. And passives like this is always something I like to collect, I guess. But who knows? 20% Universal Aura is nice. It's not stuck down to one specific area, which I'm always a fan of. Base speed 110, one of the higher ones out there. And just an overall good champion, right? He's not bad at all. But alright guys, that is going to be all for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section below which one you'd be excited to pull, I guess, or which one you'd like to try out. Just so I know which order to showcase these champions on the channel in order, right? Like if I see a bunch of, I want to see Razelvarg, I'm going to do him first. You get the drift? Alright guys, I'll catch you on the video soon, and peace.